Okay, so we are recording at the moment. Be aware of that. We have that recording set up. The transcript is running for those that were not there in the previous training, the training about commerce and user. The transcript language is US English. We have that so that it writes down what I'm saying. There is no translation in there. I don't have that. I don't have the license for that. So I'd rather have a good transcript so you can later pull it through Google Translate or something like that. I will make sure that everything will be uploaded in the same location as I did the previous recordings, in their own separate folder. So there will be a commerce end user, there will be a connect end user folder as well. Okay, welcome. What are we going to talk about? Well, we're going to talk about Connect. And what is Connect? Well, that is one of the things we're going to look at in that first part of this environment. We're going to look at how the workflow goes, what is important to know about that. We're going to look into the interface. I'm going to do a couple of demos, but also I want to show you, I would almost say, a couple of best practices. And this is where a little bit there is an overlap between Cloud Blue Commerce and Cloud Blue Connect. We saw that already in the last module about product lifecycle management for the Connect end user, the commerce end users. And that all has to do with the fact that, of course, we built those two platforms to be interacting. There is a difference. We saw that again in that last module, where you will see that in Connect, each product and the whole product portfolio is, I would almost say, a flat portfolio. If you have an object that has monthly billing and a monthly subscription period, it's one item in Connect. If you have that same object but with a monthly billing and an annual subscription period, it's another object. That whole concept, using Product Lifecycle Manager, we will convert into something that is hierarchical in Cloud Blue Commerce. So there is overlap. There are similarities that you will see in the platform, in the story that I'm telling, and there will be differences. The thing is that we built Connect not only to be facilitating for commerce. We built Connect with the idea in mind that we could, I would almost say, hook it up to any hyperscaler that is available. We have an extension for AWS. We are working on an extension for GCP, Google Cloud Platform. Of course, we've got an extension and an integration called Product Lifecycle Manager for our Cloud Blue Commerce platform as well. And we also have an integration possibility with Azure. So by using, let's say, the more common denominators that those hyperscalers have, we built Connect with that in mind. And afterwards, of course, we had to build all those integrations to the different platforms. There are some caveats where, from a, I would almost say, commerce perspective, the platform does not cooperate with Cloud Blue Commerce the same way as it does with AWS. We know that, we noticed that, but that in that specific case, we're talking about very specific, I wouldn't say strange things, but things that we did not expect to work that way with AWS. But we will come to that when we talk about it. But that is why we have, I would almost say, that discrepancy between Connect and Commerce. You will see what I'm talking about while we're going through this training. So the first thing to look at is the overview. And for us, the overview is all about what is our idea behind it. And in this case, I want to look at something maybe a little bit strange in an IT perspective, but let's look at those images. And there is a common point between all those images, from behind the scenes, the backstage, etc., etc. So one of the things that we are looking at is you see all kinds of movie scenes, but you also see the people working on it. So this is not just the behind the scenes. This is not just the magic. So what is the relationship with the theme that we have today? Well, what we're talking about in this case is the back end of operations. The back end of operations, when we're talking about ordering a product. Let's say somebody wants to buy Office 365, somebody wants to buy a subscription to Dropbox, somebody wants to buy a subscription to AWS. In most cases, we know there is a web store somewhere, whether that is direct with the vendor or with, let's say, a third party or your preferred supplier. People buy it. And everybody takes it for granted nowadays that their product will be ready, I would almost say, at the speed of a return email. Maybe there is some delay, but that's the expectation at this point. And that is where I would almost say the combination of a web store, whether that is AWS Marketplace, whether that is Azure Marketplace, whether that is GCP, Google Cloud Marketplace, or Cloud WooCommerce. Everybody expects a return service without having to wait 24 hours, 48 hours, or whatever. And this is where CloudBlue Connect comes in. CloudBlue Connect is the name of our solution, which helps to, let's say, improve software distribution and supply automation, because that is what we built CloudBlue Connect for. It is software distribution, provisioning, and supply automation. We will see in a lot of images this logo. This is the CloudBlue Connect logo. And what we want to do is we like to make things easier. That's the story that we're in. That is what we have been trying to do over time with for those that have been in this industry for a long time, with our Parallels automation. That was rebranded into Odin Automation. That was rebranded into CloudBlue Commerce. The downside of that marketplace that we had, that CloudBlue Commerce, it was rigid. It was made for hosting back in the day. So we were talking about integration with web servers that were on-prem in your own data center. We would have integration with Exchange on-prem in your own data center. And of course, over time, all those services evolved into something that lives in the cloud. We're not talking about, hey, we want a new service. That means we have to purchase a bunch of hardware. We have to put the product on top of it. We need to import specific modules and only then we can start selling. What we have nowadays is we have a software as a service world. Software as a service world means that we cannot integrate with services the way we used to do. We would put an agent on those servers. We would put specific software that would basically translate our calls from CloudBlue Commerce, Parallels Automation, Odin Automation, into something that specific piece of software understood. That was one thing why things were slow. The other thing is that if the vendor changed the software, we had to upgrade the platform. And in some cases, our dev team needed to, let's say, do a full overhaul of that agent software because API calls changed, and we only were told when the product was out and about. What we do now is we are not installing any software anymore. I mean, Microsoft won't let us install an agent on Office 365. They won't let us install something on their Azure platform. So we have to use their native APIs and do remote calls. And that's the world where we're in. The fact that we have to do it that way also gave us an opportunity to, I would almost say, look at how we were doing things and do a complete overhaul of that part as well. So we build a platform called CloudBlue Connect that sits in the middle between the marketplace on one side and the services on the other, where each product lives in Connect initially. And it could be a manual product. It could also be an automated product, depending on the time that, let's say, the software vendor or the system integrator would have to build an automated integration. The fun side of using Connect is that you can pretty quickly start selling a product. And initially, it will be manual fulfillment. So customers can already buy it. You go and you receive an email, you provision the product, you set it up for them. And in the meantime, you have a dev team in the back end building, let's say, the actual integration between Connect and the platform itself, so that you're already making money on that product and you're constantly improving. So initially there will be a maybe only a fulfillment request, no change requests yet that are automated. That might be the next step, et cetera, et cetera. That is where CloudBlue Connect comes in. And why did we do this? Well, it's about selling product, and let's say selling products in a way that we can go to market faster. Because in the previous automation, you had to build an APS package. That APS package needed to be tested, deployed in staging, et cetera, and you could only sell when everything was approved, which would take a way longer time to market. Like I said, now if I create a product that has no automation towards the APIs of the SaaS service, I can already start selling it. The only thing I need to remember is that I need to have a team that picks up those emails and provisions and fulfills that specific service. There is, however, one downside. It's not a standalone product. Connect is not a standalone product. Connect is a product that it's about selling products, but I cannot bill through CloudBlue Connect. I need a marketplace for that. We have a couple. We call it CloudBlue Commerce, but we, like I said before, we can also integrate with AWS Marketplace. We can integrate with Azure Marketplace, and we're building a connector for at this moment for GCP, Google Cloud Platform. And that means that not only do we have 4 platforms that we are integrating with, but you can build your own marketplace if you want to, because we have a full set of APIs at your disposal. So if you want to build your own marketplace, you are absolutely welcome to. I know that in your case, you're not going to do that because you already have CloudBlue Commerce. That CloudBlue Commerce integration is, of course, I would almost say the best integration there is, because these two teams have built those 2 products working very closely together. We are not bound to changes externally where we have to adapt something. If we want to make a change to, let's say, Connect, we tell the commerce team, ask them for their feedback. And if they give us feedback that we shouldn't do it this way, but in a different way, we listen to them, because these 2 layers, as I would call it, are, of course, a key thing. And a key thing to work together. So what is Connect then? Well, from our perspective, we consider CloudBlue Connect the supply automation platform. We don't talk about it as a full a full provisioning platform because we don't provision, we just call for provisioning. We create a service using the APIs on the vendor side, and we can give feedback. But that is what we're doing. We automate the supply chain. The supply chain in the most broad sense of the word. That means we can do software as a service options, but we can also automate hardware supplies. So if you want to start selling Cisco boxes, switches, routers, firewalls, etc., we could as well do that using CloudBlue Connect. And the fun part is, since we can do that through CloudBlue Connect, we can also sell them as a product through CloudBlue Commerce. So that is what the combination of the two does. So let's look at a use case. And this is, again, a use case that is outside of IT. We're using a use case that most people will be able to understand. We're looking at a farmer who has a lot of tomatoes. Sounds a little bit weird, but it gets the point across, I would say. This farmer may have a little garden with tomatoes or perhaps a huge field full of them. What is clear is that the farmer wants to earn money with that product. So he decides to sell his tomatoes to the local market, or if he has huge fields, a bigger chain of markets, stores across the country. The idea of that, of course, is that supermarket wants to sell their products to their customers. So those customers want to make salads, tomato sauce, etc. So for those customers to be able to do those salads, tomato sauces, etc., they need to buy tomatoes. That's the flow, right? That is a standard flow of scenarios. And of course, we can also see the same process from another perspective. Customers need to buy tomatoes, so they decide to go to a place where they can find everything they need. This kind of marketplace needs to buy those products from the original suppliers. So what are we talking about? We have actors in this case. The first one, the farmer itself, is the vendor, the Microsofts, the Dropboxes, etc., right? Then the store is the distributor. That's you. All the individual let's call it the platforms in this case first, right? So we're talking about Colombia, we're talking about Brazil, we're talking about Argentina. Those are the distributors, for this story at least. And finally, we have customers. The thing is that, of course, this distributor, if it's a large company, they probably have a layer in between themselves and the customers, which are the wholesalers. They are the distributor, and they've got the retailers between them. That would be the resellers in the different countries that do not have their own platform. So there are all kinds of similarities between this model and the model that we are talking about in software as a service. And that's why we use it, and we can replace those tomatoes and that grocery store picture with the different brands that we have. And you see Claro there as a distributor, but you see others there as well. And you see the vendors on the left side. We see Cisco there. We see IBM there. The one that always I always find remarkable is that here it says Microsoft 365, very small, where in most cases this has to be the biggest one because that's where we do the most business. But doesn't matter. These are all vendors of software. And those vendors are on top of are on our platform. We have products on Connect for them, and then we can have a flow towards those distributors. And I'm intentionally not saying we've got connectors or we are selling towards those, because there are a couple of more steps that we're going to learn about in this module. So Connect is in charge of automation of the distribution process between a vendor and a distributor. On the other hand, we do have another solution, Commerce, for the financial transactions between the customers. So the question now is, what relationship, or at which point will CloudBlue Connect act? Will it be here or will it be there? Well, I think that with what I've told you, you already know the answer, because this is where Connect sits. For those wanting to know, this is where Commerce sits. This is where we talked about the last couple of sessions. Let's just look at companies that we are working with. I mean, this is a scenario. These are a couple. What do we have there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 18 companies. This is a larger slide with more of those companies. But if you want to have the full picture, let me go and give it to you. In the CloudBlue catalog, you will find all the products that we have onboarded, that we have a standard connector for. So if you're considering a product, just go and look if it's already there. So we've got way more products on Connect than we see here. And actually, to be honest, we are expanding on a daily basis. We've got new vendors going to our platform or coming to our platform on a weekly or monthly basis. So the portfolio that we see here is expanding rapidly. Why is that? Because now we also see traction from the AWS marketplace. We see traction from the Azure marketplace. We're not using Connect only as a layer under CloudBlue Commerce anymore. That means that for a vendor now, it becomes interesting to be onboarded on Connect. Because by doing work only once on Connect, by creating the product, setting up the integration between Connect and their APIs, they can now reach the majority of the hyperscalers with their product. And that is, of course, what customers want. They don't want to build 4 product integrations, one for each of the hyperscalers, if they can do it with one product that could integrate to the other sides as well. So that's, for me at least, one of the most important reasons to cherish the CloudBlue Connect environment. So what are we going to do, and what are the features and benefits of our Connect environment? So the first one that we would look at, and those are, I would almost say, the key things, and then there will be more bullets that we will talk about a little bit as well. But the key thing is, it is central fulfillment management. That means that wherever a fulfillment request or a provisioning request comes from, whether that is CloudBlue Commerce, whether that is AWS Marketplace, etc., it goes through one engine, and I, as a distributor, can see all my subscriptions, regardless of where they come from. Also, from my perspective as a distributor, and now I'm really looking at it from a distributor's perspective, I've got a central catalog. Every service that I would be able to sell or I want to sell can be centralized in my distributor account on Connect. And there I can decide where to sell that product from. If you want to, you can sell one service through AWS, a second service through Azure, and a third service through Cloud Blue Commerce, if that is logical for your customer base. I still see that same catalog in Connect with the three products. I also see all subscriptions of all those three marketplaces in one central location. I can pull information from that one through using the API if I want to into my billing system, where I start billing them irrespective of where this customer purchased that subscription, if you want to. Of course, from a Cloud Blue with my Cloud Blue glasses on, I would say, why are you doing it that weird? Why are you not just selling through Cloud Blue Commerce? Because that's where my history lies and where I think that we did a great job. It makes it easier to build, because now you have not only a centralized catalog, but also a centralized repository to pull your billing data from, instead of going to three places or pulling just subscription info from Connect. But it's still a possibility. What more do we have? Well, it allows you to streamline indirect channels. It unifies direct and indirect channels. What we mean with that is Connect has the capabilities of supporting reseller hierarchies as well. So if for whatever reason in your country you don't have, let's use Microsoft as an example, you don't have the right to sell Microsoft. Microsoft is picky in that. And I know you're all big enough that they allow you, but there are countries where our partners that run a commerce environment do not have the right to sell Microsoft. So what they could do is they could, let's say, syndicate with the official distributor from Microsoft. And that works through Connect. So for Microsoft, they are an indirect reseller, whereas for other products like for Dropbox, et cetera, they are direct resellers, which allows us which allows that distributor / reseller in this case to have, again, a single subscription management tool, because those subscriptions for Microsoft are showing in their reseller account, which is the same as their distributor account for Dropbox. It speeds up to market. Like I said, if you want to sell your own product, as long as you have thought about how your product has to be sold, what items do we have, what resources in commerce terms do we need, you can publish your product within half a day. There is no automation there yet. Of course, there is no automation. That means that, but we can go to market with that service, and then we can slowly but gradually work on that integration between Connect and the actual service, if there is a service to be sold. I mean, this could also be something where manual work has to be there anyway, like registering for a managed services contract. There is nothing to really provision. You want that customer to be in the database and the contract to be signed, et cetera, et cetera. For the rest, there is nothing to do. Okay, in that case, the product is even simpler. Maybe 20 minutes, and you're up and running with that product. And I don't think that any fulfillment system allows you to go to market that fast. It also standardizes product descriptions. And that sounds a little bit silly, but it is what we what we use as our one of the benefits. What does it actually mean? It simply means that every distributor that sells your product sees exactly the same stuff. On the distributor side, it's a little bit hard because it means that there is no possibility to stand out from the crowd because everyone sells the same thing. But from a vendor perspective, it allows the end customer to choose between distributors, which means that there is better competition. It also lowers your maintenance scenario because there is nothing to maintain. Well, maybe the product, but we maintain the platform, the Connect platform. It's software as a service. So you pay for your subscription to be on there, and that's it. We do the maintenance. That means that total cost of ownership goes down. The only thing you have to focus on from a distributor perspective is, do we need more products? And does that mean that we need to onboard another vendor? And as a vendor, it only means that you have to maintain your product. Did you, in the service itself, add features, add functionality? Maybe it is something that we need to, let's say, open up or have something that the customer can subscribe to it as an add-on. So you only have to maintain the product itself, not the platform on top of it. And of course, eventually, if there is integration, of course, you have to make sure that that integration keeps working. But from that perspective, every integration has these drawbacks. The advantage here is that you don't need to maintain an infrastructure for that to work. So total cost of ownership and maintenance cost are, I would almost say, drastically lowered. Does that mean that you might lose your intellectual property? No, because you in your environment will, or in your tenant, will have access to your product. Cloud Blue, well, maybe the admins for troubleshooting or for whatever purpose might have access to it. But I've got several accounts on Connect, and that means that I can manage several vendors and distributors, but I'm not able to browse the platform to see, hey, let's see who else is here. If you want me to see your product and troubleshoot it, you have to give me access. You have to invite me, give me a login, and you can disable that login if needed. So it is a full multi-tenant platform. We've known multi-tenancy for many years. So I hope you understand that we're really, let's say, understanding on how this works. So be careful that you do not confuse Connect with setting up financial transactions. It's not a resource planner. It does not manage customer relations, and it does not manage billing. There are a couple of scenarios where you might think there is an overlap, but at the end of our Connect Essentials, there is a module called Differences Between Platforms, where we will talk more about some of these items. What we mean with it's not a resource planner, it is simple. If we have a server and we have built a connector to that server where we sell disk space, let's say we're building the next OneDrive. We do not manage, or Connect does not manage, the amount of disk space that is still available on that server. We can just sell chunks of that disk space on that server, and that's about it. That means that you would need a secondary monitoring system to make sure that that server does not run out of disk space. And if it does, either upgrade storage or add multiple servers to the infrastructure. That's what we mean with it's not a resource planner. So before I continue, what questions do you have? And let's do it the same way as last week. If you don't have questions, give me a thumbs up. Of course, if you do have questions, unmute yourself, ask it, or put it in the chat. Like I said last week, let me emphasize that again, I do not see the chat. So if there's something in the chat, make sure you raise your hand or something. I can see when somebody raises their hand, but I do not see the chat. Okay, I saw a lot of thumbs ups, so let's continue. The CloudBlue Connect workflow. And what are we doing here? We're looking at the full interaction between vendor and distributor. The vendor being the owner of the product and the distributor being the entity selling it. In most cases, the distributor being somebody with a commerce platform as well. So Connect, like I said, is in the middle of these two, vendor on the left, distributor on the right. How do they interact through our solution? What are the steps to provide a service subscription to a customer? So let's look at that and what steps need to be taken before we can actually, let's say, start selling something at distributor side. Of course, we do not look at anything on this side. What do I mean with that? I mean with API here with API traffic. We don't talk about a marketplace on this side. This is just to get products to the distributor, and what happens on this side is not relevant. What happens on that side is not relevant. There will be things where I will mention what is happening, but now let's look at, okay, what does Connect do? What does Connect facilitate for us? So we have our platform, and the first thing that we need is we have to have an agreement. That means that the distributor needs to define their terms and conditions and send them to the vendor. Send them to the vendor. That sounds a little bit weird, because does the vendor not need to have its product on there? Well, let's be honest. We as CloudBlue, when new vendors are onboarded, are also acting as a distributor. So if, for instance, a Dropbox comes to us and says, hey, we want to sell products through Connect, and we want to onboard on Connect and want to create our product, etc., we, in that case, play the role of this distributor. However, you, AMX, Claro, whatever entity you're on, when a local vendor comes to you and says, hey, we heard about this great concept called Connect, can we not onboard? You can do this as well. You can onboard vendors from your distributor account. Talk to your customer success manager about possible fees. I'm not 100% sure how that works. Of course, if they come to us and they want to be completely onboarded for the entire, let's say, ecosystem of CloudBlue, which means for onboarded for the AMX platforms, for our CB SaaS platform, for let's say other platforms that are here sitting in data centers in Europe, they have to pay a fee because they're going to not just onboard for a specific distributor. If this is just for you, I can imagine that there might not be a specific fee. So what happens is we or you as a distributor set up an agreement, and we send that agreement to the vendor. And if they accept the agreement, we call it a contract. Who's involved in that story? Well, in most of the cases, there are some legal teams first. And to be honest, this is just the technical implementation. Initially, these legal teams and maybe financial teams will probably have been doing some pre-work, so we know what all the fuss is about, what obligations does the Connect team have towards that vendor? What fee does the vendor have to pay for being on board that Connect platform, etc., etc. But in most cases, it's legal teams as well. If that happened, of course, now the vendor's going to start working. The vendor's going to build his product. And if that product is ready, they can test. We've got a preview functionality in there. So if that product is ready and they think they're confident to start selling through the distributor, one or more, they send that product to the respective distributors with what we call a listing request. A listing request simply means that, hey, you asked for my product, I've got it ready. Go look at it. Here is the product. If you list it in your marketplace, you can later integrate it with your Cloud WooCommerce, with your AWS. And when it's listed, that product is available for the distributor. So it's always a combination of both. I cannot push, as a vendor, I cannot push a product into a distributor's marketplace without the distributor knowing. The distributor cannot pull a product into his marketplace without the vendor knowing, because there is that contract flow. So it's always in cooperation of the vendor as well as the distributor. Even anything that is in our catalog, you need to set up that contract first. You have to invite that vendor onto your marketplace, onto your distributor account. And then they will publish or ask you for listing their product. And if you have done so, this is a product per product listing. That means that for Microsoft, if you want to sell commercial, it's one product that needs to be listed. And then we've got education, which is the next product that needs to be listed. Azure and Azure RI are separate products to be listed. So it's not everything from that vendor is now onboarded. It is a product by product step that you need to do. Of course, if a vendor decides to create one huge product with everything in it, guess what? If I list it, I can sell everything from their portfolio. Most vendors create separate products. Who's doing this? The product teams. Come on. Oh, sorry. Let me go back to my slide deck. Who's doing this? The product teams are doing this. The moment that product is set up, now we step out, let's say, to commerce. We import that product using Product Lifecycle Manager. For those having not seen that session, it's the last session of the previous set of trainings. Go and look for it, because it gives you a good idea what you have to do with such a listing, let's say, in commerce. You have to import the product. You have to import the PPR file. And after that, you can start selling by setting up prices and enabling all the plans. That means that if you've done that, or when you've done that, I should almost say, you get orders. People are going to buy that product. Or at least I hope that doesn't surprise anybody, that the whole goal of this exercise is that people are going to order this. And when that order comes in, we have what we call an order flow. That, I hope, again, that is not a strange thing. That means that from the distributor, we set up fulfillment requests. Fulfillment requests. And fulfillment request could be a sales request, which is a new product. It could be a change request, but it could also a cancellation request. Anything we can do in commerce with a new sales, with changes, cancellations, etc., can also be has to be handled by Connect at product side. So from our perspective, when we're looking at certification of connectors and verifying connectors, etc. We make sure that all those items are handled, or all those types of requests are handled inside that connector. Because we cannot have it that a sales request is handled, a change request is handled, but a cancellation request is not handled. Because it would mean that on the Cobbar side, a customer tries to cancel their subscription, and either the fulfillment integration says, yeah, I've done it, and still the vendor is charging the distributor for that product, which means that the distributor is now losing money because they are not getting paid by the customer, because on the billing side, the cancellation order has been processed, or the cancellation order fails altogether, which is also not acceptable. Who's doing this? Operations teams, I would say. This is mandatory. This part that we see here, anything above this red line, is available for every type of product. The next thing you see, there is some empty space, so there has to be something more. The next thing is also is of course, depending on what type of product it is. Is this a pay-as-you-go product, or is this a reservation product or a prepaid product? If it's a prepaid product, the story ends where that red line used to be, here. If it's a pay-as-you-go product, of course, every month there needs to be some kind of usage collection in the service, and that usage needs to go from the vendor to the distributor about the respective subscriptions. So we call it the usage flow, and that usage flow results in billing information on the distributor side, also handled in most cases by operations teams. So depending on what we would call a prepaid reservation-based product, a license, for instance, or I'm just buying 20 gigs of disk space, regardless whether I use it all or not, I'm paying a certain amount, and that's it. That is above the red line. If I subscribe to a service where I don't get anything assigned, but I pay based on the usage of that service that I'm committing, that usage flow comes in. Let's say I'm buying a Dropbox subscription without any storage, but I'm charged for the actual megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes that I'm actually using. So the upside is, of course, my Dropbox subscription will never get a you're running out of disk space or you're running out of storage, because I can expand up to whatever I want. The downside of it is, of course, at the end of the month, I don't know how much I have to pay, because somebody from my company might have uploaded his entire film collection because he wants to clean up his Synology box and later copy them back. But it's just at the end of the month that this happens. So there are two ways of doing this. Of course, the whole scenario will also be guided by technical and customer support teams. Very, very key thing. This slide that you see here, we will come back to this a couple of times during this training, because we're going to cover what the contract flow does, how to set it up, etc., etc. We're going to look at what the product flow does and where to set it up, etc. So, of course, for order flow and usage flow, the same story. So memorize this slide, and you will see it come back multiple times. Sorry about that. So what's in Connect and what is not in Connect? For the contract flow, out of the platform are things like negotiations between vendor and distributor. Some vendors have here's the price list and you make sure this works. This is the MSRP. Go ahead and play around with it. It could also mean that you are going to commit to a certain amount of transactions, number of transactions, amount in money of transactions, et cetera, et cetera. So there could be a negotiation there. And what is in the platform is that invite and the signing of that legal document. And this is a little bit weird because you don't sign anything. You just check the box, right? So I would almost say outside is the actual legal document signing, and then inside is, let's say, the agreement that everything has been done outside of the platform. From a product flow perspective, outside of the platform is the product itself. Product attributes, visuals, parameters, the vendor setting up their, let's say, their marketing collateral. Of course, the distributor might also want to have a full go-to-market strategy, bundling, pricing, campaigns that you do around it. That's outside of the platform. Inside of the platform, the vendor sets up, I wouldn't say uploads, but sets up his product, and the distributor accepts the listing. Of course, he can reject it. If this vendor wants to just onboard for this distributor might have an idea of, okay, this is how I want to sell this product. That means that I need these items in there. I need this, and that. It might be that the vendor misunderstood. But in most cases, the product is as is. So if you want to sell it, you have to accept it. If you reject it, the vendor will probably not change it. Why? Because all the other distributors that are already selling that product are happy with what they have. So they're not going to change the wheel because you don't like the circular thing. You want it a little bit stretched, right? That's just not going to work. And then in the order flow, well, what needs to be done out of the platform? Like I said, that automation integration. So from CloudBlue Connect to the API of the vendor's provisioning, fulfillment, whatever system they call it. But at least when an order comes in from any distributor, a mature product will have integration at some point. So that integration towards the APIs of the vendor is done outside of the platform. Of course, on the other side, and here we're basically working on two sides of the spectrum. And what I mean with that is, let me go back here. The first outside of that order flow is happening on this side. The second happens on this side, where this is the Connect rectangle that you saw there on that slide. So let me go back. On billing system. And in our case, that billing system will not be just a billing system, but an ordering marketplace kind of system as well, with everything included. Let's call it CloudBlue Commerce. The vendor, in this case, will receive orders of fulfillment and accept them or reject them. And then again, outside of the platform, through the API or manually, the vendor gives access to the product to the customer. Product access to the customer. I don't like the sentence to product to the customer. So let's say the vendor grants product access to the customer, meaning they can start using that product. They get their license to log into Office 365 using their credentials. They get a link to download the Dropbox for Business client where they log in and they are allowed to now sync folders to Dropbox, right? That is outside of the platform again. And the last thing, again, if needed, out of the platform, and there's nothing written here, but I would say that out of the platform, the vendor collects the actual usage data, because we don't do it. Inside the platform, inside the platform, the vendor needs to generate that file or that usage report so that it is distributed to the actual distributor. But the actual collection of this usage happens again outside of the platform. Same as that integration. It could be part of that integration as long as they collect it. And of course, another thing is that the distributor now bills the customer through Cloud WooCommerce, bills the customer through their own billing system, CRM systems, or whatever. So far, what questions do you have? If not, please give me a thumbs up. Okay, I see thumbs up. Love that. So far, so good, right? This is pretty clear. Let's take a 10-minute break, guys. Let's be back at let's be back at 1:15. For me, it's 1 past the hour. Let's be back at 15 past the hour. I will keep the recording running. And I will leave it on this slide so that the moment you see it swap to a new slide, that is where I start talking again. All right. Can I get a thumbs up for those that are back? Perfect. All right, I see people being back. Thanks. Super. So let's continue here. Next topic is the UI of the platform, where I will walk you through a couple of things. I'm not going to do that by a demo right away. I want to first show you a couple of items in the UI, and then I'm going to do a demonstration. So let's first look at the standard user interface. Standard user interface, it's a platform where we have some information in there. First part is the navigation options, the navigation tiles. Depending on your privileges, depending on the version of the platform, depending also on whether you are working as a distributor or as a vendor, you might have more or less tiles in there. We also have the actions bar. Anything that you need to do, messages where you need to act on, requests you have to look into, etc., etc. You can find there. You see something here: listing requests, deploying listing requests. There are a couple of stages in which such a listing request is happening. I will show you all that during this training. You will see here, this button here is actually the small version of that one. So the fact that I see 21 here, if you do the math, 10 plus 8 plus 3 is 21. So these numbers that we have here added will show as this little icon number there. So because this navigation, or this required actions item you will only see on the home page the moment you come in. That means that if you are working in Connect already, you've logged in an hour ago, etc., etc., you might not see something's coming in, but you can always keep track of it there because this part will always be visible. We also have another navigation option. This is a menu that allows me to quickly go to these buttons as well. So I don't need to go to home and then to another module. I can go from integrations to listings to news straight away by using this menu. This takes some time to get used to. I still see colleagues of mine going to the home page first and then opening the next module. I will show you that when I'm doing the demonstration. But it's a possibility to quickly go from one place in the platform to the other by using the pull down menu here. For more information, for help, for guidance, for Q&A, we have the help button here. It gives you access to our community where there's a lot of help files, where there's a lot of QA scenarios, documentation is there, etc., etc. The help brings you there. And then you have, not sure what is happening here. Let's do it that way. I pressed the wrong button. That happens to me all the time. And then we've got this item here. This is where you can toggle between accounts. If you have more than one account, for instance, a distributor and a vendor, you can toggle between those two here. If you're working on multiple projects, assisting vendors, you might have access to multiple vendor accounts. You will see them here. And you will be able, if it's at least the same login information, you're able to quickly switch between one account and the other. Of course, you could also use different logins. In that case, there's only one item in there. So that is the UI. And there are a couple of things available. Let me go to my environment and let's look at it. So here I am. This is my environment. As you see in the slide, there are 16 tiles in here as the distributor. And you see it's test provider for education, distributor, blah, blah, blah. Here I'm in the same account, test distributor for education, but we have 20 tiles. That's all has to do with not just the fact that I have more privileges than Bernat, who created the slide. This has to do with simple new versions, adding new information, new tiles, new possibilities. And some of them are part of an existing module, as we call them, and others are part of or are a new module altogether. So hence the 20 here. You see my required actions in here. There are some quick links that I will discuss, and there is a news option as well. One of the key things we always do after an upgrade is we will have a news item that says what's new in Cloud Blue Connect version 27. In this case, from 1 year ago, it was available for everyone. This is the other navigation. This is what I just talked about, where I can go from, let's say, products, where I see all the products that I am using, to my list of customers. Instead of going back to the home page and then going from products, homepage, customers. It depends on what you prefer. What I like about this menu, I'm using this one more and more because I can immediately go to the tabs that are in there. Because here you see there is a directory of all customers and there is a tab for all customer requests. So a customer that wants to onboard or a customer that has other requests available there. So I can go straight to where I need to be. So if I want to go to the directory of all my subscriptions, it's one click. But if I need to go to all requests for provisioning or fulfillment, as we call it in this platform, I can click this one there and I am transported to the right tab straight away, as you see. Another thing you can do here is you see that little pin here, and you can pin specific items, in which case they will show up under favorites. So you see that I now have 3 favorites, subscription fulfillment. If I use that a lot, it's easier to do it this way or remove it. Let's do the customer's request. I can unpin it from here, or I can, of course, also, where's customers here, requests, let me pin it. I can also unpin it here. It doesn't matter. So I can quickly go to the places where I need to be very, very fast. Saves you some time, saves you some clicks. Also, the system keeps track of where of the locations that I visited earlier. I see a hands up. Let me, Ana Paula, tell me.
Hello. Quick question. How do you get to that place? Because I see that you are inside a distributor. You're inside one connector that is already installed. How is it I get there? I was trying to get to my NCE connector, but I was not able to. So that I would follow on my system, to see what you're doing.
In the
I was not
distributor,
able to. Yes.
in the distributor, you should be able to see your products here. And
no, but how do I get to distributor? I'm not being able to get to my distributor.
Oh, you have to have an account in Connect. So you have to go to portal.connect.cloudblue.com. That's a separate platform. So it's not automatically that you log in that you can log in from Commerce to Connect.
Oh, got it. So
it's a separate
have to have
platform.
An account there.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So how do I get an account there?
You have to talk to the admin of your Commerce of your Connect environment. because
Okay.
you have NCE already.
Sorry
That
about
means
this.
your account is already there. That means
Okay.
that they have to give you a user account there.
I probably have it. I'm almost sure about that. I just need to know how to. Portal.connect.global.com. Thank you. Could you
You're
put this
welcome.
on the chat? Would you mind? Put this link
I'm
on the
not
chat.
sure if this is your link because this can be branded as well.
Oh,
So
got it.
this could be a branded link, but you can try. Where's my chat? There it is.
I'll ask my tem also. I think it would be easier.
So,
Okay.
yep.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome. CloudBlue homepage. As we saw, this is where there are specific notifications. This is my inbox with the required actions. Here we see the same numbers as we have here. The help gives me certain specific options where the community portal is, let's say, where most of the help is found. And actually, the first three items bring me to the same portal, only with a different location within that portal. The API reference is part of the community portal, only it is 2 or 3 menu items deeper, and the API reference just brings you immediately to that location. Get support is a different matter, where I can ask support to specific vendors about a product. And we're going to talk about this a little bit further as well. But you can also request support from. Nope, that's the wrong one. Let me do CloudBlue. From CloudBlue itself. So every distributor has this CloudBlue partner, the PA 400-685, is our product team. So this is the team that manages the Connect environment. So if you have an issue with the platform because it does not work as you expect or whatever, you can leave a support call or a support message with priority. What type is it? Is it technical or is it business? Provisioning doesn't work, where we have tested the integration, blah, blah, blah. Or is it a business question? How might we want to set up something? And then your question, et cetera, et cetera. It is sent to the Connect team, and they will eventually pick it up. So the system has its own built-in support team as well, or support features. If a product configuration does not work, or things are not working as you expected, you can also get support for that specific product. Let me see Eric's. Nope. API demo, or maybe I want to do managed services team. I'm going to now put in something not working as expected. I'm going to do this a little bit more in depth further down the training. This is a technical question. I put some information in for the product that we're selling. Of course, this could be Microsoft, where the question you have is for NCE, not for Azure or Azure RI. So you can select for which product you have this question. If needed, I can add screenshots in there. I can add people in CC that are in my platform. So in this case, anybody that I add will receive not only my request, but also the answer. And let me create this ticket. This is it. CC Eric. I'm going to go. I can go to the details. Here we are. There is the help desk module. We see that it's pending since. The agent is that the on CC is that same person. I receive an email on this one because now they send it to my to the vendor account, And if I go to that vendor account, the managed services team by Eric, you see that I can quickly toggle between two scenarios. And here there is I'm also ending up in the help desk tool. And here it is. Up today, there is a pending item with a low priority. I can see the problem. I can see the comments, and I can inquire information. Can you give me a screenshot? Maybe that's a very long screenshot. I can do it private, which means that it's not sent to the CC person, but only if Eric logs in, he will see it, or I can send it out to anybody. So it's back to inquiring. I can go back to my distributor. Distributor is on the second page for me. Here it is again, pending. And deploying you here is emails coming in because of this. Outgoing case, inquiring. It's not resolved. Where am I seeing this extra comment? Probably in my email. I can add a comment. Add comment. Add attachments, something like that. I can go to my managed services team again. Inquiring. Okay. I can submit data. It's pending, and I can now resolve it. Maybe I think it should be resolved. Should be fixed now. And now Eric needs to close it on the distributor side. So Eric is the distributor. Eric has a problem. He asks the vendor fixes it, and now the distributor should know whether or not it's done. Let's go to page 2. It is resolved, but it's not closed yet. So I'm going here, and yeah, I tested, and now I'm going to close it, and I love Eric, so let's give him 5 points. So that is the navigation in here. You also saw me toggle between different accounts, and you see the amount of accounts is not limited to one little page. It could mean that you have multiple accesses to multiple environments. Why do I have this much? Because every one of those is linked to the single login that I have, meaning that same username, which is my email address, and the appropriate password. I log into the platform, and then I get access to the different tenants where this username is bound to. I can log into the platform with a different username and password. I can separate those two. Let's say I've got my private account where I use in with my Gmail address, and I have my work environment where I use my cloudblue.com email address as login. But that depends on you. I prefer to do it this way because in this case, I can toggle between different environments quickly. I don't need to remember 15 logins with 15 passwords or use a password safe for that. I can just log in and work on different environments. And you see some of these accounts, I have access to the distributor as well as to the vendor of that environment. So here we are. That is the navigation. The navigation where when I log in, I always end up in the last account I was logged into. So in this case, I'm logging in as on test distributor. If I now log out and sign in again, and maybe I should have not used one password, but okay. Let me quickly go here. Oh, there we go. You see, I have multiple environments. I'm going to use this one, that one. Now I'm logging into this account. If I go to this account and I log out, manage services, team, sign out, and log in again, I'm coming back to that one. So don't be hasty in this thing. First look, if you have access to multiple accounts, your first check should be, where am I? As who am I logged in? Am I a vendor? Am I a, where is it? Where do I have that one? Am I a reseller or am I a distributor? First, verify who you are. Name of the account, the role of that account on Connect, and the person logged in. If we go back to the slides, you will see, if you zoom in a little bit, that this is, again, test provider for education, the distributor, and then we've got Bernat Clapes Sancho, which is my colleague that created these slides. So who am I? Where am I is an important question. And then, of course, the next step is, what am I going to do? So before we continue, what questions do you have? And again, of course, if you don't have questions, please give me a thumbs up. Great. Super, thanks. Lots of thumbs up. Okay, we looked at the user interface, we looked at the navigation, but I also showed you that you can have access to multiple accounts. So where can I find the properties of my account? What can I set as an account, etc., etc.? So where is my account overview? There are a couple of things that are related to my account. First one, account, news, help desk, the account itself. You have to remember, I showed you that already, but let's emphasize it again. There are three types of accounts. The first one is the vendor. The vendor is the owner of the services. The Microsoft selling Azure, the Microsoft selling Microsoft 365, Dropbox selling Dropbox Business, etc., etc. That is what we consider a vendor. Then we have the distributor. And for us, the distributor is the person or the entity that buys from the vendor to sell it further. Whether that selling further is to direct customers or to the next type of account, which is a reseller, doesn't matter. The distributor is the person, if you look at the terminology, that buys directly from the vendor. And then we've got resellers. So in case of that story that I mentioned before the break, where I, as an owner of a platform, a commerce platform, want to sell Microsoft 365, but Microsoft did not invite me to sell Office 365. And I applied for it, and they say, no, you're not big enough for us to go into business with. What can you do? Well, from a Connect perspective, you could look for somebody who is big enough, that has the contract with Microsoft, that might already be on Connect, and start reselling through them. In that case, we create what we call a reseller account for you, or we create a distributor account for you because you already have a direct contract with Dropbox. You have already got a direct contract with Acronis, and you sell these products already from a distributor perspective. And then we make you a reseller for Microsoft only. So now you have two direct relationships with Dropbox as well as Acronis, and you have an indirect relationship with Microsoft through another distributor, which makes you a reseller at that point. This is how you have to see that. It might be that if I log in to my distributor account, that I still see that I have a syndicated contract for Microsoft because we were not big enough to sell Microsoft for ourselves. So we are buying it, or we're selling it through a syndication contract with either Ingram Micro. We have that a lot with all kinds of smaller distributors or resellers, depending on how you want to call it, that do not have the magnitude, the impact to have all those direct relationships. That means that they're buying it from Ingram Micro and reselling it to their customers. In that case, Ingram Micro is the distributor. The vendors have a direct contract with Ingram Micro. Ingram Micro has a reseller relationship for those products with those specific, what are they? ISPs, service providers. So that is a key thing. 3 types of accounts, but it's not always your one or the other. Of course, the functionality for a specific product, you are one. A distributor, for instance, could have its own set of products. Services that he's building hosting in his data center that makes that distributor a unique distributor with its unique product. The problem is that that distributor cannot create his product himself. He needs to first create a vendor account for himself where he creates that product. So also in that case, he is acting as both vendor as well as distributor. Be aware that it's not a black and white choice. You're either a vendor or a distributor or a reseller. You could be all 3 in some kind of use case. And you always have to think about what specific use case are we looking at before we say, okay, in this case, you're acting as a vendor. In this case, you're acting as a distributor. In this case, you're acting as a reseller, right? That is a little bit how you have to look at these items. Oh, let me go back to my slide deck. What do we find in the accounts button? Because we do have, or we used to have, an accounts button here. In the slide, it looks like this. At the moment, the account button is not there anymore. We now have what we call the settings button. I'm not sure why they changed that. Probably because settings is a little bit more covering what you can configure in there, but it's still confusing. So let's look at the settings. What can we find here? Well, the first is the general information. And guess what? Oh, the general information is the first thing that we see here. Then we see users. So Anna Paula, if you have already got a distributor account, this is where people should go to give you an account and invite you to that distributor account, if they allow you. But that's the key thing, of course. They have to decide whether it's logical for you to have it or not. But this is where they go. And that means that they will probably put you in some kind of group. And we discussed in the commerce end user training things about roles. Here we talk about groups. It's the same thing. With a group, you assign policies. I can create a new group. Let's see, say, call it trainers, and we give it a color so it's easily identifiable. Let's make them orange. And we say, okay, description, the trainers of today. We click next, and then we give them access to each module. The tricky one is that this is access to modules only. And why am I saying this is a downside? Because I do not give read access or write access. If I give you access to a module, I give you access to the full functionality of that specific module. So there is no way I can give you read only to all the modules. I give you read and write, or I give you no access to that specific possibility. Which also means that if I don't have the permission for that module, I will not see it in my, let me cancel this. I will not see it in my tile set. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm not sure if we are planning to do that in the near future. We had some requests for that, although in real life we also see that not everybody from the distributor will get access to Connect. It's a limited set, just the people who need to be able to validate which products should be onboarded. So it's sometimes even just the product team, product managers, and that's about it. Or it's the product managers telling the admins to do something, which probably is, or which is even more probable. But the key thing is that I give you access to a group or through a group, let's say, so trainers. Sorry, I need to give this again, the orange one, trainers. I click next, and I give you access to whatever products there are. This one, for instance, only click next, and then I can add people to this. We've got a couple of names in there of old colleagues and current colleagues. I can give it to all, or I can give it to one or two people. Let's say, let's give Eric this one. It doesn't matter because it's an addition of different roles or different groups. If I now go to the users and I look at Eric, where are we? Here we are. Let's do edit groups. You see that he's part of the trainers, and I can add him to any other group that I want to, or remove him from all the groups that he should not. The thing is that I cannot do this. Cannot exclude themselves from a group they belong to. So if I go to groups, I go to trainers, I can see which users are in there, and I should be able to remove him. Nope. Yep. Remove. Delete. So I can put myself in that group. I cannot remove myself from this group. I'm not sure why. Probably to prevent issues from happening by people removing themselves from groups they should be in for them to do their work. Tell me, Anna Paula.
It's not. It's another thing, but from this one you're saying probably because you already logged in. So if you take you out from some group, you could cause some sort of
no. It's
crash
not
on the
that
system.
I'm logged in. It is.
Yeah.
Well, it is because I'm logged in as this user that I
Yes.
cannot do this. Yeah, that's the thing. But it has to do with the fact that we want to prevent people from playing around and removing them from a specific group because they think they don't need it, and then breaking their functionality. And since I cannot
Yeah, yeah.
add myself to the group again, that's the thing.
Yeah, but that was not my question. It's just a comment
Yeah,
from the last week.
yeah,
My
sure.
question is,
Go ahead.
um, I do need access to this panel if I develop a new connect, because we will do the development one, right? Payment. So if I develop a new connect, I need access to this panel, right? In order
No,
to
you need
deploy it
access
or
to the
something.
vendor. You need access to a vendor account.
But a vendor account in this panel.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. This vision we are having is the distributors
The one that we're
account
looking now
view.
is a distributor. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, this is the distributor. So
Yeah.
I might not have the distributor view for some case like NCE because it's not needed. But
No.
I'm for the one that I developed, I will probably have because it was my development, right?
If NC, because NCE you probably have from us. So
Yes, I
you
do.
will not get access to that specific vendor. But if you, for instance, want to create your own product, let's say, uh,
I don't know, whatever.
yeah,
Tomato selling.
some kind of storage. You have that
Tomato
Claro,
selling. Let's say
Claro this or
tomatoes.
Claro whatever. Yeah,
Let's
and
use your use case.
yeah,
Tomatoes.
yeah. So in that case, you need access to the tomato vendor, or
Yes.
you have to set up a new if it's already existing, or you need to have access, receive an invitation to set up that specific vendor.
Got it. But about NC, and let's say me, I'm just I'm a solutions architect, so there would be no sense for me to access NC distributor page. But let's say Juliana, which is also here, she's also here. She is the product owner for NC. So
Um,
would it make sense for her to have access to this?
no, no, the NCE product itself is created by Ingram Micro.
Yes.
So we don't give, first of all, we don't give our partners access to our Ingram Micro account
Yes.
for logical reasons.
Yeah, sure.
Plus, the product manager for NCE on your side would not need to have that access. The only thing they might need is the capability to go to the distributor side and accept new listing requests for new Microsoft products to come. For instance, NCE education or NC anything that was that has been released
Oh,
recently.
sorry.
And in that case, they only need to be able to accept that listing request in the distributor. But I'm not 100% sure if this is not already done by a team on your side that does have access already to the distributor side.
The partner
And
center.
then in that case, the product manager only needs access to product lifecycle manager in commerce.
Got it. So it would be partner center and product like it's just that I saw some reports here that might be interesting. I don't know, some visions, some views of for subscriptions, etc. that could be useful for the product owner. That's the
I
reason
don't.
why
Well, the thing
I
is,
asked.
the thing is, you can see each product, each subscription. You cannot
Mhm.
alter it because the system will know that this subscription has been created not in Connect itself,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that it has
yeah,
been imported or let's say
yeah, yeah,
requested from commerce. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't see the actual reason for a product manager to look at the subscriptions on this side. The only thing, like I
Okay.
said, it might be interesting for a product manager to see the products itself, to see what versions we have and whether or not they have been listed and accepted, etc., etc. Like here, we've got published, and we've got another one that is
Got it.
end of sale. But for the rest, I would say it isn't that there isn't that much needed from a product manager on this side. The
Okay.
product manager from Microsoft, or in this case from Ingram Micro, will update. The system will automatically see that there is a new version. And then in Product Lifecycle Manager, with that blue icon with the exclamation mark, the product manager from your side will see, hey, there is a new version. Let's
Okay.
update our connector. And that's about it. So the only reason is Product Manager Microsoft on your side. In the distributor side would be if Microsoft releases a complete new product that needs to be listed. Updates will automatically
Be
cascade into
informed
commerce.
in PLM. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. What more can we do here in setup? Well, because that's where we were, right? We stalled here, group users and assign permissions. Another thing we can do is we can play around with notifications. Let me go back to my setup. Here we can set emails, content of emails if required. We see that it's enabled. There is a new update for listing. Let's say we did request, we built a new Microsoft product, Microsoft released it. We know you're selling Microsoft, so we will probably at some point ask you, hey, this is the new product. We have a listing request for you. Of course, we don't expect people to be sitting and looking at their screen 24/7 to see if a new request comes in. So we have the capability of sending those things out as an email to the people responsible. So there is more tier configuration. I can even send an email via the API. Somebody pings the API with the content, and the system is sending out that email. If I don't remember my password, what do we do? What do we send out? What placeholders do we have in there with links, etc.? We can set rules there, all kinds of items. If, for instance, Ana Paula, the people create a user account for you here, you will probably receive this user invitation in your mailbox where there is a link. You go in there and you activate your account, your user account. Can happen here. Another thing we can handle is per domain, we can do single sign-on. So if you want to, you can use Azure AD to log in to the environment for a specific domain in your email address. All kinds of scenarios. I can make sure my branding works. In this case, I'm using portal.connect.cloudblue.com. However, if I use this item, education.cloudblue.io, you see it looks completely different. I'm logging in with the same set of credentials. And I'm at the same spot. Only the color and the look and feel is different. I've got the same list of accounts here. Only it is branded. And that's what I mean when I said I'm not sure if your environment is branded or not. You can always try to log into portal.connect.cloudblue.com. If you don't get the look and feel that you're expecting, it might be because you are logging into the generic environment. I cannot block people to log into the portal.connect.cloudblue.com. Ana Paula, tell me.
Even though we have our on-premises installation, the Connect portal is always hosted by Cloud. Is that it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is a SaaS platform. It's a SaaS platform.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, those are the settings. We walked through it. There are a couple of slides in there that have a little bit look and feel scenario. The thing is that these are older slides from a previous version. So the amount of options that I have here is less, and that is why we changed it from account to settings. And of course, with settings, we also changed the icon, and it's not at the beginning anymore. We have the settings here. Key thing, more options to trigger, more options to go into. Branding, there are a couple of reports. Audit trail you can switch on, which is good, I think. The second thing to look at is the news thing. And this is what I like from the platform. I, as a account on the platform, I can share information with, let's say, the relevant recipients. What do I mean with that? Well, I can share news. I can share updates. There is a feed section as well. And if I create something, there is a preview possibility. Okay, how would it look? Why is this important? Because we do this when we update the platform itself. So what is new in version 23? What is new in version 24? What is new in version 25, etc., etc. Another thing that somebody can do as a vendor can share information about updates in his product set with his distributors. I, as a distributor, can share information with all my vendors in that new section. So a lot possible. Let me show you that. There is a news option. So let's go to the news option. Here we have it. And I can create a post. And the first thing you see is it can have a title, it can have a subtitle, and it can have a body with a couple of markup options. I can set it for only my account. Guys, remember Friday is our end of month drink. Maybe weird to do it here, but you can do it. I can do it with all my vendors. I can share this with all my vendors. I can share this with all my resellers. And I can share this with all my other distributors, which is strange as a distributor. So that one is here. You see that it's a generic pull down, but I can also share something with everyone. I see my author. I can do it anonymous, or I can do it as myself. I can put images in there, and I can do a preview. I can also unpublish something if needed or delete it. So let's look at what is there. Here you see that there is a lot of information already. ThinkPad laptops is created by the test distributor for education, laptops for sale. This one is for distributors only, so my vendors don't see this. I can edit this item if I want to. In that case, the author will change. I can add a new version or new images. And you see that the first version is now active. I can do a preview. I can do a publish. If I toggle to a vendor, the same thing. You see different options. I see a different, let's say, feed. Why? Because this is the feed for this specific vendor. And if I create a post here, let's do it for distributors only. Let's call it new version v27 released. We just released our latest version of the connector with added something like that. I can do a preview. In this case, I don't have an image, so I'm leaving it like that. That's good. I'm good. Let's go back to edit. Let's save it. Since I haven't published it yet, it is in draft mode. If I publish this, it should be published at least to my distributor. Here we have it. For distributors only, just let's see. Let's take this one. Why don't I see it here? Because this is also a distributor. Because this distributor does not have any relationship with that specific vendor. So you see that there is a hierarchy available, and that if I post something, it will only be shown to the most relevant people. If this distributor now goes into contract with that same vendor, it will show up in his feed. Let me unpublish this one. I can unpublish it. I now go back to my test distributor. It's gone. I can see my posts here. I can view as a vendor to see, does it show up? I can see view as a reseller, does it show up, etc. So an easy way to push out information about releases where you can put a full article behind it and say, okay, guys, this is the new version. We added this functionality. We added that. We upgraded our stability, blah, 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 blah. All that information could be in here. Version 27, release notes. Here you see with a link to the actual full release notes, but data stream processing, inquiring templates, UI and UX improvements, and a new database extension. Always interesting. If you want to know more, you use that link and go to the actual release. At some point, I'm not sure why, we stopped doing this because the latest upgrade was to version 31, and we don't have that one, at least not as a news item in our feed. I like to have it in the feed. I'm going to make a note after this training that I investigate why we do not put it in that feed anymore. But for me, at least, a good way to communicate with, let's call it what they are, with my partners. So I can do an all, and it's still my partners. It is my resellers and my vendors will see it. As a vendor, my distributors will see it, and the resellers beyond that if they are using my product. So key things to remember in that case. That news option allows me to keep my partners up to date. And we already looked at that help desk functionality a little bit. So what can we do? What is it made for? It's made to address troubleshooting. If you notice that your orders are going through to the vendor, but you get all kinds of error messages while you think you have set it up correct, you can leave a message for that specific product with the vendor that is selling that product or that is setting up that product. And the person's building that integration will, in that case, get back to you. Why am I talking about the people building that product? Because if you, as a distributor, go to the help desk functionality and look at Microsoft and say, okay, I've got a problem with NCE, you won't reach Microsoft itself. You will reach the CloudBlue product team that built the connector for NCE. Microsoft is not doing that. CloudBlue is doing that. And of course, we need to know if something goes wrong. So we make use of this help desk functionality. Another thing is you have that CloudBlue built-in support. Each and every one of our no notifications. Let me go to help desk. If I add a new case, again, as I said, CloudBlue. Here we have it, this one with the logo. And then the PA, there's also a VA, there's a vendor. The PA will get you to our team where you can leave a notification. I'm not going to do that because I don't have an issue with what they do. Key thing, first of all, with what product do we have an issue? Of course, this has to be something that they did, or you just leave it to no product and mention what the issue actually is that you noticed. And in this case, I would almost say it's probably, or the probability that you are contacting the Connect product team is not for a product. It is for generic product configuration or product functionality. You see the little icons that we have. Our product team or the product teams will see those same items. So if something's really bad, you can make it an urgent request or you can make it a high request. If it's annoying but everything functions, but you would want it different, you can have a low or medium. So you see that whoever does it is also in there showing things, etc. In those cases, let me manage services team. In those requests, I can attach files, as I said, I can do CCs if needed, and I can put in comments what is wrong. Also, after the fact, I've created this ticket and I want to add extra information that I don't want in the description. I can go in there after I created the ticket and put it in. And each of those have different statuses. You will notice that the whole platform works with different statuses, different moments to look at things, or different ways to look at things. No, let's do this. Let's continue. So I looked and walked you through this screen. So there are a couple of key objects. We've got the accounts, we've got the news option, and we've got the help desk functionality. 3 items that are at least good to know about, that they exist. Settings, news, and help desk, I should say, that are available in every single account. Before we go further, let's look at questions. I see a question. Those are not views, Ana Paula. Ana Paula is asking, I'm still confused about all different views in Connect. It could be because, yeah, okay, but to check, we have at least 2 views, vendor and distributor. No, those are different accounts. A vendor has its account. They have their specific logins. It's a separated entity. Then we've got distributors. They have their own logins. And then we've got resellers. They have their own logins. Those are different accounts. But since I, for instance, have, let's say, coupled those logins, I can toggle between the three. So each of those vendors have different capabilities, not profiles, different capabilities, depending on the use case why they're there. A vendor can create products. A distributor cannot create products because they only distribute. A vendor can create products. A distributor can hook up with a vendor, can have a direct relationship. And then under the distributor, we can have a reseller. Reseller is a separate entity. For instance, a reseller that needs to have onboarded on Cloud Blue Commerce, but they are too small to have a direct relationship with Microsoft, because that is mostly the case that we see. Microsoft having decided that this is our partner in South Africa, this is our partner in Colombia, this is our partner, etc. And I, as a third party, want to sell Microsoft, but I cannot because I don't have a direct relationship. So what I can do then is I can become a reseller of that direct partner of Microsoft. In that case, I need a reseller account. Does that answer your question, Ana Paula?
Yes, does. You have yeah, I was not able to get the word for it. I was calling it views, but I see what I mean. Yeah, it's not a view. Different accounts, yeah.
Okay.
A question though. Back to NC and Fox
Yeah.
and NC apparently.
Yeah.
We have a direct contract. Actually, Colombia has a direct contract with Microsoft.
Yeah.
So, and we use Connect. How does that work?
And where are you?
I am a reseller from Colombia.
You are a reseller from Colombia. In that case,
yeah, but not in Cloud Blue. I am a reseller for Microsoft. For Cloud Blue,
I know. So what happens is, let me draw. Do I have a pen? Yeah, I've got a pen. So we've got Microsoft here, right?
Yeah.
We've got Microsoft there. Let me see if I can get a
I'm going
pen
to
to
mute
work.
because otherwise you're going to listen me coughing.
Yeah. Let me wait. Yeah, that one is connected. Does it work? Yeah. So Microsoft has a direct relationship with Connect in Colombia. Right? That is how I assume it works. And then on the other side, we've got you. Where are you? You're in Brazil, right?
Yeah, but I don't think it's through Colombia's Connect because we
Yeah.
don't
Wait.
talk to Colombia's system.
We've got Connect for Brazil.
Oh, got it.
And here we've got Commerce, CBC. This Connect might hook up to, for instance, Dropbox, might hook up to Acronis. That is why you are a distributor. Colombia is a distributor here as well. They have their own CBC set up here at the bottom and with all their direct relationship. What we've done now, or what you could have been done, and I think it works like that, that there is a reseller relationship between Connect in Colombia and your account in Connect in Brazil. In that case, you are of mixed setup. You have a distributor account for, and it's actually the same account in this case, but you have distributor functionality for Dropbox, for Acronis, for all those other services. And you have, in that same account, you have reseller functionality that hooks up to the Connect account in Colombia. Would that answer your question?
Oh, got it. Yes, it could be that. I would have to ask Triada, right? How they did.
Yeah,
What they done.
and that
Because
makes it also, these scenarios make it a little bit out of the ordinary, because normally you would have only a distributor account or a reseller account. In your case, because of the size of the company,
Yes.
you have, let me take another color here a little bit. Let's take yellow. On this side, you have that mixed functionality where you are both a distributor as well as a reseller. Distributor for the rest red stuff, and a reseller for this part.
Got it. Even
Got
though,
it?
because, yeah, is it the same situation considering that previously we had the APS
Yeah.
and we were talking direct to Microsoft?
Well, probably when you still had the APS package, were maybe you were using the credentials from Colombia, because that could happen. In that case, you still were not a direct partner from Microsoft in Brazil, but you
Yes.
were selling through the account of Colombia. That's not a problem. That Microsoft allows that. We allow for that. In this case, since we are.
Yes. So it could be that we're doing this in Connect, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more likely because we didn't change the relationship with Colombia, so it's possible that we're just
absolutely.
doing that.
And this is what I've seen happen a lot recently. Partners that are reselling Microsoft, but that are not a direct partner from Microsoft, are now selling through what we call a syndicated model. This is the syndication.
Yes, I've heard this before. So
Yep.
the syndication, yes, I heard this one.
Yep.
So we're probably in the syndication, yes.
Yep. Yep.
Yes, that's most likely our scenario.
Yep.
Okay,
So that's how it works in that case.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? In that case, I'm going to again leave this page on. I'm going to wipe the drawing. Let's take a break. And let's take a break until, let's give you 15 minutes. Let's be back at 40 minutes past the hour. See you in a couple minutes, guys. Hey guys, can I get a thumbs up to see you're back? Okay, I see thumbs going up. Thank you. Right. So let's restart. This is the last topic that I want to do today. It is the contract flow. Because a lot came towards you, so let's not overfeed you guys with a lot of information. So at this point, the first step to begin a relationship between a distributor and a vendor, and actually a distributor and a reseller, and as well, we have a contract flow. So this is that story, that slide that I showed, that I said you will have to memorize it, or actually you don't need to memorize it, because at the end of the training you will have memorized it, because it comes by every time and time again. So the first step to do is we talk about a contract flow. What do we have? Well, we have a couple of items there that you need to understand when we're talking about the agreement, contract flow, contract, etc., etc. Agreement and contract are, of course, in the last, the right to right rectangles. We've got marketplace and we've got hub. One of the things is that when we talk about a marketplace in Connect, it in most cases aligns with something that we have in commerce as well. However, there are subtle differences. What you see here is a diagram of a common example in Connect. A distributor has defined several marketplaces based on different countries. So you could have a distributor with a marketplace in Brazil, with a marketplace in Colombia. So I'm not 100% sure, Ana Paula, whether you have solved it this way or through the drawing that I gave you. That you should you can see that when you are able to log into your distributor account in Connect. Because if you see the product there, you can see how it comes in. In this case, what I expect in your case is that it was the drawing that I made in the last slide, in that question slide, when you asked that question. That is how I expect it to be in your use case. However, if you have, and this is something that would go for instance, the marketplace of Colombia, because Colombia has different resellers under them when it comes to commerce. And this makes the story a little bit, I would almost say, complex, because we can set up resellers in commerce that are selling products through a single distributor marketplace, because the commerce system will buy from will use the distributor account from that platform owner to buy from the vendor. And in this case, the countries, Chile, etc., are now at commerce level buying from Claro Colombia. So in that case, we don't need these marketplaces. These marketplaces are there so that Brazil, let's take a color that is visible on that background, can have their CBC instance. CBC instance, etc., etc. In your case, Colombia has its own marketplace. They have several operating units or opcos or resellers, however you want to call it, underneath there. They don't have their own cloud WooCommerce environment. They don't have their own Azure marketplace under it. So probably in Colombia, there is a single marketplace. Besides that marketplace, there could also be hubs. And why would you want to use different hubs? For instance, because you want to have a staging environment and a production environment. Or you want to separate different markets. In this case, hospital and pharmacy, but you could also have a marketplace for education and a marketplace for government and a marketplace for government. Or sorry, a hub for education, a hub for commercial, and a hub for government. So depending on your use case, you can play around with the marketplace. Marketplace most of the time is a country. And then different hubs. So if you list a product, because that is what we're doing, right? We're setting up that relationship. Let me quickly go back. We're setting up a relationship between the vendor and the distributor. That means that we have to set up a relationship, maybe per marketplace, and eventually, of course, we will assign those products to hubs. So a marketplace is where a distributor sells their product. It can be organized by region, by size, like enterprise, SMB, retail, industry, like I said, education, government, commercial. And eventually, a marketplace is linked with a hub. What is a hub exactly? We define a hub as the place where distributors can express specifics of their business. Specifics of their business to be accessible to their vendors in different related workflows. For instance, each hub might serve multiple marketplaces, or each marketplace has a single hub. Hubs are also the object that is connected to the commerce system. So if you have a commerce system, a single one is connected to a single hub. And then we're talking about agreements. What is an agreement? It's a document, theoretically, with terms and conditions created by the distributor, and it is a template for a contract. That means that I can have an agreement and I can ask a vendor to accept the agreement, which means that a contract is created at that point. And there are different types of agreements. We can have, let me do this. Let's wait for that. For some reason it zoomed in. I'm not sure why it did that. Okay. We've got a program agreement. It is used to sign a contract between a distributor and a vendor. That is just, hey, we are partners now. There's nothing about distributing, etc., yet, because the next step would be a distribution agreement. A distribution agreement defines the detailed terms on distributing vendor products via a very specific marketplace. That means that I can have, if I have 3 marketplaces as a distributor, I have to have a program agreement between me and a specific vendor, let's say Microsoft, and another vendor, Acronis, and a third vendor, Dropbox. And then I can have a single distribution agreement with Microsoft for Marketplace 1, and for Acronis with Marketplace 2, and with Dropbox for Marketplace 3. In that case, Marketplace 1 will only be able to sell Office 365, etc., etc. So what we most of the time see is that it's a single marketplace because there's a single selling system behind it. And in that marketplace, we sell all products. So there are multiple distribution agreements and multiple program agreements, but they're all for the same marketplace. And of course, eventually, this is on the left side of this. Let me see, where do I have it? Let me quickly go back a couple of scenarios. Or don't I have it as on a slide? I don't have it on the slide. I was looking for the slide with reseller on. We don't have that. This is the program agreement and the distribution agreement are agreements between the distributor and the vendor. So if you look at the vendor being in the middle, and can I draw that? I can draw that. So this is the distributor. We've got the vendor here. So here we have the program agreement as well as the distribution agreement between those two. So I'm a distributor. I want to partner with you. That's the program agreement. And I want to sell your products through this marketplace. That's the distributor agreement. Then we have our reseller on this side, where we have a service agreement. A service agreement being, let's say, the equivalent of a program agreement. Hey, we are partners. You want to sell my products. I'm the distributor. I have the first level contracts. You don't have the direct relationship with that specific vendor. So you are my reseller. I'm going to be servicing you with those products. And the last thing we have is a syndication agreement. And this is a syndication agreement, which means that for these products, the reseller can start reselling that. A syndication agreement, once signed, these contracts enable distributors to arrange sale chains via marketplaces of those resellers, right? So, and an agreement, as I said, is a template of a contract. And as a distributor, you send out a contract activation link, or you give them an actual invitation. There are two ways of doing this. And let's go for the definitions. A program agreement is between the distributor and the vendor, and the service agreement is between the distributor and another distributor. Actually, call it a reseller. Call it a reseller. And finally, we have a contract. What is a contract? Well, I don't like the definition we have here because there's nothing legal about what we do in Connect. If you want to do this, you have to set up that story with that specific vendor, with that specific reseller on paper outside of the platform. This, what we call a contract in Connect, is just the IT representation of all the stuff that was agreed outside of Connect and maybe signed outside of Connect with DocuSign or whatever. And then, okay, now let's set up that relationship in Connect. Of course, if you look at what a contract from a definition perspective is, this is what a contract, what you'll find as a definition of a contract. The thing is, as far as I know, we don't have any legal binding engine in Connect. The only thing we do is we set up this relationship as an as a digital equivalent of stuff that is on paper already. We've got direct contract, a program or service, or an indirect contract. That's a syndication contract. Syndication contract simply means that I am able to set up a relationship with a reseller as well. So where does this work? And how does this work? It all starts with the distributor. So I am here in my distributor, and since this is about vendors on one side and resellers on the other, we are talking about what we call partners. And I can do multiple things. And I'm going to walk you through those steps on how all these steps are. If I click add a new partner, here you see that I can either add a vendor or add a reseller. Depending on which way I'm going, I can type in the name, demo vendor. If I have some kind of ID that needs to match an external system, a CRM system or whatever, I can put it in, or I can leave it empty and have the vendor put it in at some point. If I don't click create new agreement, I'm asked to select an existing agreement. If I have a couple of vendor agreements already that should look the same every time and time again, where we don't mention Microsoft and Acronis, but we just talk about the vendor, I can do that. An alternative would be that I would create a new agreement. I'm going to uncheck it again. Be careful and see what we're doing here. This little arrow means that we're going to skip this step. Why? Because an agreement is bound to a marketplace. So if I select an agreement that is existing, it automatically fills out that marketplace information as well. So if I create a new agreement, I get to select which marketplace to use. That's an interesting thing. So I'm going to create a new agreement. I click next. And this is what I mean with there is nothing legal, because the customer just says, hey, yeah, I approve of this agreement, and that's it. It generates something with a description. I don't need a document to add a document. Of course, you can do that. You can refer to a DocuSign signed document that you have somewhere, or you have actually a scanned paper contract with actual signatures on it, and you can upload that. The value of these last two things is none, because they're there for reference and nothing more. So from my perspective, the none part is as binding as these two. I'm clicking next. And of course, now I have to tell, okay, this agreement is for which marketplace? I can do any marketplace that I have. The problem with this account is we have used this for so many demonstrations that the amount of marketplaces is quite big. So if I would do everything, this partner should be able to sell everywhere. But you see, we've got Argentina here, we've got the Dutch marketplace, we've got more and more. Let's add 2 or 3 marketplaces here. I think the Dutch marketplace is a good one as well. 2 marketplaces. Next. And here I can create my vendor account myself. This is something, for instance, that I would do if I were a distributor and I wanted to set up my own product. So I'm the person that is managing the distributor, but I will also be the person that sets up the vendor and that product. So I'm going to give the account details. At that point, the login is immediately bound to my login that I have here, and I'm automatically an administrator for that environment. That might not be the case if it is a competing reseller or a competing vendor, or a small vendor that comes to you and says, hey guys, I want to somehow set up my product so you can start selling it in your commerce. In that case, you generate an invitation link. This is for a new vendor. This whole story is for a new vendor, a vendor that is not on board Connect yet. So this is completely brand new. Sounds tricky, but logical. I'm coming to a demonstration of how to do this. Let's say how to invite an existing vendor that's already on Connect, a vendor that is, for instance, Microsoft. You want a direct relationship with Microsoft. You want to make sure that your distributor is now bound to the Microsoft account. But let's generate an invitation link first and create a new vendor. Here's my link. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to use a privacy window and use that link. Here we go. You've been invited to activate the contract with that ID. There is my vendor agreement. I can open it. Everything that I put in there in the agreement itself. Let me quickly go there. In the agreement itself here. There are too many agreements as well, so that's why it takes some time. This is it. This is the one that we're talking about, the demo vendor agreement, where we have the details. This agreement is created, updated here, created there. So that's the one that we have. Let me open up the other screen again. And I could put in my email address. If I now use my standard email address, eric.dennekam@cloudblue.com, I will bind this to my existing list, and it will expand the list of those accounts extensively. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this funny trick. Plus demo. I have read and accept the agreement. I don't like the color scheme here because it does not show me the button that well, but we'll have to do. And now there's always this garbage thing that will ask me to show me that I am the person. I'm not even sure if this one has picture. There we go. Now I have to put in my full name and give me a password. So at least 16. Well, since this is the first time I said it, you see that the other two items are already given. So let me. Here we go. They're the same. And let me do next. I always like that it forces me to do that item multiple times, verify. And now it asks me to give the official company name. So the demo vendor name that I set could be anything, invite company, or it could not be the actual legal name of this company where some people might want it. Be aware that there is a 0 or a capital O in this case for the login name. I'm going to do this. And here I activate that contract. So all these steps, and I can still back off. If I cancel this, close this screen, this account will not be created, etc. But I'm going to activate it now. There we are. And it gives me proceed to the CloudBlue Connect education platform where I am now a vendor. AMX demo. I can look at my email address here. And I have a new vendor. This partner, and let me go back here. If I refresh this page, I can now see that the contract is signed. This is a program contract. Here you see it. And since I selected 2 marketplaces when I set up that agreement, I have 2 distribution agreements. One for the Dutch marketplace and one for the demo vendor KA8S sandbox. I can have a history of versions. I can add a version because there's something new or whatever. And I will have to accept that new. Let's add a version. Add a version. Come on, click. For instance, because I want to add a file or upload something. Add. You see, I didn't do anything here. It's just, hey, there is a new version. Why would we do that? Because there were discussions between our lawyers outside of the platform. And now this platform needs to be set again. And guess what? There is no active contract on this one. Let me refresh this page then. And let's go to partners. Here we are. Contracts. Here we see the items. There's version 1. Versions, you see there is an option, but I don't understand is why it's not here, to be honest. It's never. So now I need to sign this one. Okay, I agree. Sign. So this is why I don't think this stands out in any legal proceeding, because guess what? There is nothing legal that I did here. I just said, hey, yeah, I'm okay. If I now refresh it, you will see that version 2 has an active contract and version 1 doesn't have it anymore. Logical. Distribution agreements have not changed. If you add a marketplace as a distributor and you want to start selling those that product, you have to first add a distribution agreement for that specific marketplace. Name, demo. There we go. And we add, this cannot be done in bulk. So in this case, I have to do a 1 by 1. Let's do that one, send, document source, and I already activated. Oh, I need to put in something here, and I can save it. There is no active contract yet, because in this case, I, of course, need to look at this partnership again. Agreements. And here I have to make sure that I enroll for this marketplace. Why am I doing this demonstration? Because at some point, this is hardly documented. So when I had to do this for a partner, for a project, I had to figure this out. I did not find the appropriate documentation. Everything starts from the distributor. You have a partner agreement with the vendor, and then you can specify for which marketplaces I want to have that distribution agreement. And of course, if you add a marketplace, you have to add a distribution agreement. And again, the vendor needs to approve that. You cannot one-sided decide on, hey, we're going to sell in another country. This could, for instance, be a country where you as a vendor are not allowed to do business with from a legal perspective. So they cannot just say, hey, okay, since we are vendors and we have a distribution agreement, let's start selling wherever, right? In this case, you can decide not to enroll. You leave it, and this product will not be sold. Your product will not be sold in that specific sandbox marketplace in this case. I'm going to enroll, which simply means that I am accepting it, and I click enroll. So now I am ready. Be aware. Again, I have accepted it. Now we are enabled for this environment. So I can now start selling my products through the sandbox marketplace. You will see this conversation info often. And the fun part of it, and let me go to that agreement. Let's go here, distribution agreement. I have to approve it on my side. Are you ready to start selling? Send. I see it show up here. And of course, in that case, I can communicate back. I can say, yes, I am. You can approve the request. Okay, no problem. Let me approve it. Are you sure? So even if I say it's okay, I still need to take the next step. And now the state has changed to active. But you see, you can have conversations about this without having to revert to email and different media. That information is saved with the status of this item. So just another demonstration. Now this information is saved forever with this scenario. So now I have a new partner. That new partner. Sorry. Now I have a new, as this test distributor, I have a new partner called AMX Demo. And that AMX Demo environment, or has three environments. Demo agreement for the Dutch marketplace, for the K8s Kubernetes sandbox, and just for a demonstration. You see that this information has the agreement name on it, where we specify the marketplace. Of course, a good practice would be to not just use anything in this case as the distribution agreement, but also put in something that refers to the marketplace. So that is the first step from a distributor perspective. How do you onboard a partner? Let me go to partners again. Recently visited partners directory. How do you onboard an existing partner? Because so far you've seen me create a new partner, somebody that was not on the platform yet. And as I can show you, it does not have any products. Just want to show you it's empty, no products. So I'm going to use that tomorrow from a demonstration perspective. How do I create a new vendor? How do I onboard an existing vendor? What I can do is I can create an agreement. And in this case, I have to select which agreement. In this case, first a program, then first a program agreement, because that one includes the vendor. That's the vendor part. The service and syndication is for resellers. Remember that? I'm going to create a program agreement. Demo program. Demo description. You see my fantasy has run out. And I'm going to activate the version. I called it demo agreement. There is no contract here. I can add versions here. I can see the contracts. I can see the distribution agreement. I'm going to add a distribution agreement, demo distri agreement for whatever marketplace. Let's take Europe and put in something here. Come on, cancel. There we go. Save. Contract details. I always have to search for what the next step is. That is good. Auto accept enabled. That's the distribution agreement. Now let's go for the program agreement. Here you see how it's linked. The program agreement. We have the contracts here, nothing. Distribution agreement with that one, the details. And I need to have I need to create a contract, a program contract. Next, for that demo agreement, I created a demo agreement. Where is it? Can I search? Probably, yeah. Demo. The one without demo program agreement. This is the one that I just created. Next, how do I know? 0 contracts. I could also search for the ID. I click next. It is for production or is it for test? You see, I can do that in 2 ways. Create. And now I'm only sending him that activation link. That activation link allows him to log in with his credentials and bind as a vendor and bind him to my distributor account only. Close. The problem is that all my vendors that I have here are already bound to my distributor account. So I cannot quickly do that. But this link, you mail it or through Teams to the respective respective vendor. They only have to accept it. And now there is a relationship, a program relationship, and a single distribution relationship, because in that agreement, I only have one distribution agreement. Here we are. So the vendor that accepts this link or uses this link will be able to sell in the Europe marketplace of the test distributor. And you see that everything connects up to that specific program agreement. The types are there. Here we have the one that I just created, the Dutch marketplace with a K8 sandbox. And this one, sandbox marketplace, there was an icon on the sandbox marketplace, not to the other one. So that's why the images are different, just because the sandbox marketplace had an icon defined and the other parts did not. This is how account activation works. 2 ways, as I said. The first one is for a new account that I showed you. And this, for instance, would be for a small vendor that you want to onboard because they want you to sell their products only on your platform. You onboard them, they can start building their platform, and you can start selling. How that works, we're going to look at in the next module that we start tomorrow. Whereas on the other side, if you have an existing vendor like the Microsofts, like the Acronises, etc., you have to create a contract based on an agreement that you created before, and that link is now used to onboard that existing vendor. That's all there is to it. So let me go here and ask you, what questions do you have? Good question, Anna Paula. Anna Paula asks, when I put it for test, does it mean I can only connect with CBC Lab, or is this unrelated? If the thing is that if we do these steps, is this for test or is this for production? It matters not where it comes from. So you cannot just connect it from CBC Lab. If you connect to that specific hub, it will still go through to Microsoft, but it's more relevant if you do things like this. In subscriptions, you can create subscriptions, and part of that is this a test or a production environment? So it's more for testing than for which actual environment do you hook up to it. Because for CBC, it's most logical to connect CBC Lab with it, but the system does not see that it is that CBC is the lab, or that is the production environment. We don't send an identification, hey, CBC, your lab, or hey, CBC, you should not come here. This is more, if it is set up correct, the CBC Lab should talk to test, and the CBC production should talk to production. But if you set it up wrong, the system will just accept it. So what more questions do you have? If not, can you give me a thumbs up? And this is actually where I wanted to be today. It was a little bit faster than I would say expected, but this is where I want to stop, because the next stuff is quite a long story, and it would take us way beyond the time that we have for it. So I want to keep it for today. Tomorrow, on Wednesday, we start with product flow. And well, I wish you a very good day if there are no more questions, and I will see you on Wednesday. Have a great day, guys. Thank you for being here again.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
I see you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And Anna Paula, get well soon, man. You